Greetings all. This video contains information about forensic science instrumentation techniques written by Divya Porwal, volunteer of Applied Forensic Research Sciences, presented by Sabrin Philip, volunteer of Applied Forensic Research Sciences. Contents of this video is paper chromatography and column chromatography. Paper chromatography. It is a procedure for segregating dissolved chemical substances by putting up with advantage of their various rates of migration across sheets of paper. It is a cheap but influential analytical tool that compels very small quantities of substances. Working. First step is take a sheet of filter paper and apply the test solution or sample as a spot near the corner. Second, the sheet is originally multiplied with some acceptable solvent to create a fixed liquid phase. Third, an end of the paper closing to the test area is then fascinated in another mixture in which the ingredients of the mixture are soluble in differing degrees. Fourth, the solvent permeates the paper by capillary effort and in passing over the species area carries along with it the various elements of the sample. Fifth, the elements move with the flowing mixture at velocities that are dependent on their solubility in the static and flowing solvents. Finally, separation of the components is given rise to about if there are discrepancies in their relative solubility in the two solvents. Before the solvent enters the farther edge of the sheet, both solutions are vanished and the area of the detached elements is specified, usually by application of reagents that form colored compounds with the detached substances. The neutral components appear as private spots on the path of the solvent. If the solvent flowing in one direction is not able to separate all the components satisfactorily, the paper may be turned 90 degree and the process repeated using another solvent. This is a well-labeled diagram of paper chromatography. Column chromatography. Column chromatography is a method which is used to separate a single chemical solvent from a mixture dissolved in a fluid. It separates entities based on differential adsorption of compounds to the adsorbent as the solvents move through the section at different rates which enable them to get separated in fractions. This technique can be used on a very small scale as well as large scale to purify materials that can be used in future investigations. And this method is a type of adsorption chromatography technique also. Principle. The main principle pertained to in column chromatography is the adsorption of the solutes of the solution with the help of static phase and afterwards separates the mixture into unrelated components. This is a well-labeled diagram of column chromatography. Working. The steps included in the working of column chromatography are: first one, largely the column is included of a glass tube with an applicable stationary level. The lowest end of the column is packed with a cup wool or cotton wool, after which the stationary phase is packed. And then comes, after filling up the column, a paper disc is placed on the top. This is done to avoid the disruption of the stationary phase during the introduction of the sample or mobile phase. And then comes the disruption in the stationary phase, which is the adsorbent layer, directs two different bands of separation. And then two types of preparing the column known as filling techniques namely comes up, which is dry filling method and wet filler method. Dry filling method. The quantity of adsorbent wanted is added as a neat dry powder in the column and the solvent flows voluntarily through the column until stability is achieved. Wet filling method. The slurry of the adsorbent is able along with the mobile phase and is spilled into the column. It is deemed as the ideal technique for packaging. And then the column should be properly washed and completely dried before in use. And then comes introduction of the sample. The sample is a mixture of components which is dissolved in the minimum amount of the mobile phase. At one moment, The sample is introduced into the column, and on the top portion of the column, it is consumed. Through the elution process, the individual sample can be isolated from this zone. What is elution technique? Elution technique, through this technique, the individual components are separated completely from the column. For this, two types of elution techniques are there: isocratic elution technique, gradient elution technique. Isocratic elution technique is that throughout the procedure, a solvent of the same polarity or same solvent composition is utilized. For example, use of chloroform alone. And then comes gradient elution technique. Throughout the separation procedure, solvents of gradually increased polarity or increased elution strength are utilized. Significance of chromatography in forensic science. Paper chromatography, mostly used in ink analysis or ink examination. How? In paper chromatography, nothing but just put the ink sample, one known and other one questioned, on the place of any chemical. Column chromatography is used in toxicology cases or screening to examine if a deceased person has taken drugs or alcohol prior to death, or any of the chemicals which are harmful for our body. Well, with this we come to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Hope this was useful to each one of you.